Towards the end of 2004, I decided to take a break from the post-production work that I was doing at the time to make my first feature-length documentary. The subject which I chose was the singer and composer Lisa Gerrard. She was a singer and an artist who I admired greatly. Got in touch with her and said that I wanted to make an intimate portrait. My name is Clive Collier. I'm a director and a producer and owner of Storm Creation Limited. Being my first documentary, one of the things that I was very, very aware of was the fact that I was not going to get a commission from a broadcaster. It would have been very difficult to get the finance to make this, so I knew that I was pretty much on my own. One of the most important things of the Z1 was its price point. I mean, around £3,000 for a camera which you know is shooting a compressed form of HD was exactly what I wanted. I think one of the most important things about the Z1 is really just the size and the balance of it. I mean, it's really, really easy to hold. It's not excessively heavy. It's a small package. It enables a solo filmmaker like I was when I was making this film to be able to travel with other bits of equipment and it not being too unwieldy. A lot of the people that I was interviewing in this film were extremely busy people. I mean, Michael Mann, Hans Zimmer, Harry Gregson Williams, Mark Magidson, even Russell Crowe was interviewed for the film, all shot on the Z1. And in those scenarios, knowing that they were very busy, I knew that I had to be able to get into the room that I was allowed to shoot the interview, set up really quickly, get the framing and the shots that I wanted, ask the questions and be packed up and gone very, very quickly. The LCD is so fantastic. I was doing all of my focusing, all of my framing of my shots just using the LCD. And I think having played with some of the other HDV cameras out there from other manufacturers, it's still the best one for me. It's sharp, it's got the resolution, and essentially it was more than good enough for me to be able to get the focusing right. The focusing on the Z1 is also an absolute joy to use. There's actually quite a lot of forgiveness in the sweet spot. It's still it demands quite a lot of accuracy and a sharp eye for sure. And obviously with the Carl Zeiss lens as well, you're knowing that the optics for the price point, for the format, are performing absolutely beautifully. It just has a wonderful balance. And certainly when I started using it with the Steadicam Merlin, that balance really came into its own. The Merlin sort of sits underneath here with a handle, and essentially what you're doing is you're just moving the camera around, having to balance it like this. So knowing that I can just do that with my fist and the camera is perfectly balanced on my hand gives a good indication as to the weight distribution, and ultimately what that means is that you can essentially hold this camera for a long period of time. So for documentary filmmaking, it's really an essential thing. I had situations where I had to shoot in very low light conditions, and one example of that was while I was on stage during a concert while I was filming Lisa. So you can imagine you've got the really heavy dark areas around the back of the stage or around the auditorium, but then you've got the very, very strong spotlights or stage lights that are coming onto the stage. And I had to use quite a lot of gain on that. And looking at the images in post afterwards, yes, you can see a little bit of noise in the blacks, but to be honest with you, the image and the color replication was absolutely superb. The images were perfectly usable. I think with good lighting conditions, that's really where the Sony Ranger cameras or the HDV format as well really comes to life. Good sunlight, good lit scenes are absolutely fantastic. I must have shot about 60, 70, 80 hours worth of material, and I think I only had about 3 or 4 cases of dropout. And that's shooting on the Z1. I was also using the Z1 to ingest into my edit suite as well, and without servicing the camera. So over the past 2 or 3 years, I actually haven't had any kind of a problem with it at all.
The Z1 really was a breakthrough. When we first saw it, we couldn't believe they were going to get an HD camera into a body that size. We saw it in a meeting at BBC. We were really quite up in arms about this and say, come on, make it, we want it now, don't wait a year, don't wait for the next IBC, let's have it. And we were very happy with it. Well, we knew it was only going to be 8-bit, so we knew that a lot of post-production techniques that you want to use in major productions are not possible. You can't use decent chroma key, it simply doesn't work. We knew that sensitivity was going to be an issue. We knew that camera noise was going to be an issue because you can measure all those and you can predict it. You can calculate it from the size of the format. You know exactly what it's going to do. But when we actually got hands on it, it actually looked rather nice. As long as you steer clear of the long end of the lens, as long as you don't put it into the sun, as long as you don't turn the lights out. So as a usable camera, it's actually rather good. So we knew right from square one that this was the camera that we could buy there and then to replace the PD-150s, PD-170s, because that's what the BBC wanted to do. They had 300 or 400 cameras that needed replacement. The Z1 came along at exactly the right time and was affordable. That's why it was bought.
I think, as with everyone in production, when you actually decide to invest in a piece of equipment, there's always that fear that a couple of months or a short period of time down the line, a better piece of equipment is going to come out. And I kind of felt that a little bit with the V1 when that came out, knowing that it had a better progressive mode set up in there, the 3 CMOS chips, which I think were performing a little bit better than the CCDs. But I think, to be honest with you, the Z1 is still the benchmark. I think it's still the one that most people have gone for. Once I finished my film, it was basically up for sale for broadcasters to actually show. And once people saw the film, and in my case ABC Australia and Sky Arts acquired it, they knew that it was actually completely all shot on the Z1, but because they were given the film as a finished article and they liked the film and they liked the subject material, they had no issues with it. And so I mastered it, sent it in, and it went through their technical department without any hitches at all. And obviously in the 2 or 3 year period, HD broadcasting has started to really emerge now. The commissioning process is totally different, where they're not really that happy about people using it as a principal camera. So it's something where I'm going to have to consider making a step up the HD ladder. But to be honest with you, I'm still always going to have the Z1 in my bag. It's been a real workhorse for me. It's been very reliable. The images have been consistently fantastic in a variety of different situations and setups and conditions. And essentially having it with you at all times is always great because you never know when you're going to need it.
My name is Geoffrey Lee. I'm a professional photographer and video man, and I specialise in doing air-to-air photography and filming from military fast jets. Over the years, we've gone from big film cameras and now we're on to small handheld video cameras. And the main reason we use these cameras is that in my environment, my working day, we're in full military kit with G-suits, life preservers, so there's not a lot of room. Priority for us is to have a small, lightweight camera that can fulfill all the requirements, but also a camera that can put up with the high G maneuvers whilst we're actually turning around the skies. And for us, the Sony A1 camera meets that bill absolutely down to a T. It's a similar size to my hand, so when I'm actually filming, and the type of environment I'm filming, for safety reasons, with the old Sony VX1000 and 2000, depending on what type of military aeroplane I was in, I couldn't actually use them for health and safety reasons, because if I had to eject out the aeroplane, I'd probably break a leg or a knee or something whilst coming out. Whereas with the smaller Sony cameras, I can put them on the coaming or dashboard of the aeroplane, pull the handle, and I know that I'm going to be safe at the end of the day. I found with the A1, all the controls, the zooms, the backlights and all these things are out of everyday touch of normal use of the film camera. And it really does live up to its expectations of working in a very cramped and quite high workload environment. The other good thing about the Sony A1 isn't just, you know, the good quality results, it's just how cheap it is to buy an HD camera these days. I mean, I believe about £1,200–1,300 to pay that amount of money and get the quality. It's just unheard of. It really is fantastic.